The Black Sea is calm tonight. Moonlight stretches across the water beside the port town of Feodosia in Crimea. Fishing boats drift slowly through the harbour, while sailors unload cargo from distant lands. Russian, Turkish, Armenian and Greek voices echo through the narrow streets. The town smells of salt, smoke and wet wood. Standing quietly above the shore is a young boy who cannot stop watching the sea. His name is Ivan Aivazovsky. He is born in 1817 into an Armenian family whose original surname is Aivazian. His father is once a successful merchant, but hard times and economic decline leave the family poor. By the time Ivan is a child, money is scarce and life is difficult. But outside his home lies the sea, and for Ivan, the sea becomes everything. Feodosia is a place of movement and stories. Ships arrive from across the Black Sea carrying sailors, merchants and travellers from distant ports. Fishermen tell stories about violent storms and ghost ships disappearing into the darkness. Young Ivan listens carefully to all of it. More than anything else, he watches the water. He studies the changing colours of the sea during sunrise and sunset. He notices how calm water can suddenly become violent beneath dark clouds. He watches moonlight shimmer across the harbour at night. Long before he studies painting, he studies light. As a child, Ivan draws constantly. He sketches on scraps of paper whenever he can find them. When paper runs out, he draws on walls and fences around the town. Neighbours begin noticing the quiet boy with the remarkable talent. There is something different about the way he sees the world. He is not simply drawing ships or waves. He is trying to capture atmosphere, emotion, movement. One local official, the governor of Feodosia, notices Ivan's talent and decides to help him. The governor arranges an education for the boy and gives support to the struggling family. It changes Ivan's life forever. For the first time, doors begin opening. He receives formal lessons and access to books and teachers. Yet even as his education grows, the sea remains at the centre of his imagination. He walks beside it constantly. He watches storms rolling across the Black Sea horizon. While others hide indoors during rough weather, Ivan moves closer to the shore. Lightning flashes across enormous waves while ships struggle against the wind. The violence of nature fascinates him, not because he enjoys destruction, but because he senses something powerful hidden inside the sea itself, beauty mixed with danger. Years later, people across Europe will stare at his paintings and wonder how he paints water with such realism. But Aivazovsky is not simply painting the sea. He is painting memory. He is painting feeling. And those feelings begin here, in Crimea, while he is still a quiet child standing beside the harbour at Feodosia. As Ivan grows older, it becomes clear that his talent is too large for the small port town where he is raised. Eventually, an extraordinary opportunity arrives. He leaves Crimea for St. Petersburg to study art at the Imperial Academy. It is a journey that changes everything. But as the young artist travels north toward the grand capital of Russia, he carries the Black Sea with him. The storms, the moonlight, the ships, and the endless movement of water. No matter how famous he becomes, part of Ivan Aivazovsky will always remain that silent boy standing beside the shore, staring out at the dark horizon and dreaming of distant worlds. St. Petersburg feels like another world. The cold imperial capital of Russia is far removed from the warm coastline of Crimea. Grand palaces rise beside frozen canals. Soldiers march through enormous public squares, while aristocrats travel the streets in decorated carriages. For the young Ivan Aivazovsky, the city is overwhelming. He arrives at the Imperial Academy of Arts carrying little more than his talent and the memories of the Black Sea. Back in Feodosia, he is the gifted boy from the harbour. Here in St. Petersburg, he is simply another student trying to survive among the empire's finest young artists. The adjustment is difficult. The academy is strict and deeply traditional. Students spend endless hours studying classical techniques, copying sculptures, and mastering perspective. Discipline matters as much as creativity. Every detail is judged carefully. But Ivan learns quickly. His teachers soon notice that he possesses something unusual, an ability to create atmosphere and emotion in ways other students cannot. While many painters focus on precise details, Aivazovsky seems obsessed with movement itself, especially water. At the time, many artists believe moving water is nearly impossible to paint realistically. Waves constantly change shape. Light disappears and returns within seconds. Storms transform the sea moment by moment, but Ivan cannot let it go. He studies rivers, canals, rain, mist, reflections, and clouds. He experiments constantly, searching for ways to paint not just what water looks like, but what it feels like to stand before it. His instructors are impressed. Before long, Aivazovsky begins winning medals at the academy. His paintings attract attention from wealthy patrons and members of the Russian elite. Even Tsar Nicholas I hears about the talented young painter from Crimea. Imperial support changes everything. Suddenly, doors across Europe begin opening to him. As his reputation grows, Aivazovsky leaves Russia and travels through Italy, France, Holland, and England. For a young artist who once watched ships from the harbour at Feodosia, the journey feels almost unreal. Italy leaves a deep impression on him. The glowing skies of Naples and Venice seem alive with colour. Sunlight reflects across Mediterranean water in ways he has never seen before. In Rome and Florence, he studies the masters of classical painting, while also absorbing the emotional style of Romanticism, the great artistic movement sweeping across Europe. Romantic painters are not interested only in accuracy, they want emotion, drama, power, nature at its most beautiful and terrifying. Aivazovsky immediately understands this world. In galleries and private salons, European audiences begin admiring his paintings of storms, moonlit seas, and ships battling enormous waves. Aristocrats invite him into their homes. Critics praise the intensity of his work. One famous story claims, "The great English painter J.M.W. Turner sees Aivazovsky's art and is deeply impressed by the young Russian artist's ability to paint light. Everywhere he travels, the sea follows him." But something important is changing inside his work. At first, Aivazovsky tries to paint water realistically, exactly as he sees it. Yet over time, he realizes something crucial. The sea moves too quickly to simply copy. Instead, he begins painting from memory. He studies storms carefully, then recreates them later inside the studio. He paints emotion rather than strict reality. The crashing waves, glowing skies, and moonlit oceans become dreamlike, somewhere between truth and imagination. This becomes his signature style. Soon, audiences instantly recognize an Aivazovsky painting. The glowing horizon, the silver moonlight, tiny human figures struggling against enormous waves. Nature feels alive, powerful, almost spiritual. One of his most important early paintings is Chaos. The painting depicts darkness, light, and violent water colliding beneath a dramatic sky. It feels biblical, vast, and deeply emotional. The work helps establish Aivazovsky as more than simply a marine painter. He is becoming a painter of nature itself. And still, the sea continues calling him back. Again and again, storms appear in his imagination, shipwrecks, sunrises, endless black water beneath moonlight. During these years, another idea slowly begins forming in his mind. An image of survivors clinging to wreckage after a devastating storm, while sunlight breaks through the darkness. It will eventually become his masterpiece, a painting known as the Ninth Wave. But before that masterpiece arrives, Ivan Aivazovsky is still a young artist chasing something almost impossible: trying to capture the movement of the sea on a silent canvas. By the middle of the 19th century, Ivan Aivazovsky is no longer simply a promising young artist from Crimea. He is becoming one of the most famous painters in Russia. His exhibitions attract huge crowds. Wealthy collectors compete to buy his work. Admirals, aristocrats, and even members of the royal family admire the glowing seas and violent storm that pour from his imagination. And Aivazovsky paints at an astonishing speed. Visitors to his studio can hardly believe what they are seeing. Some claim he completes entire paintings in a matter of hours. He rarely paints directly from life. Instead, he stores images inside his memory. Waves, clouds, moonlight, storms, then recreates them later with incredible confidence. For Aivazovsky, the sea is alive, and no two seas are ever the same. His close relationship with the Russian Navy gives him opportunities few artists ever experience. He travels with naval expeditions and witnesses the power of the ocean firsthand. He watches warships cut through dangerous waters while storms rise suddenly across the horizon. These experiences feed his imagination. Again and again his paintings place tiny human beings against the overwhelming force of nature. Ships are thrown across enormous waves. Sailors cling desperately to broken masts. Sunlight breaks through storm clouds like a message from another world. Yet even in disaster, his paintings contain beauty. Perhaps no work captures this better than the Ninth Wave. The enormous painting shows survivors floating on the remains of a wrecked ship after a terrible storm. Towering waves still threaten to destroy them, yet warm sunlight begins breaking through the clouds. The sea remains violent, but hope survives beside it. Audiences are stunned. The painting feels cinematic long before cinema exists. People standing before it almost hear the crashing waves and feel the freezing water around them. Critics praise not only its technical brilliance, but also its emotional power. Aivazovsky is no longer painting simple landscapes. He is painting human survival itself. Other masterpieces soon follow. In moonlit night on the Black Sea, silver light stretches peacefully across dark water beneath a silent sky. In the Black Sea, the ocean appears vast and endless, almost swallowing the horizon itself. In paintings like Rainbow and Shipwreck, beauty and danger exist side by side. His work becomes instantly recognizable across Europe. The glowing skies, the transparent waves, the dramatic storms. No one paints water like Aivazovsky, but while his public reputation grows larger, his private life becomes more complicated. In 1848, he marries Julia Graves, an English governess. At first, the marriage seems happy, and the couple has children together. Yet over time, tensions grow between them. Aivazovsky is deeply devoted to his work, constantly travelling and painting. Eventually, the relationship collapses, ending in separation. Years later, he finds happiness again after marrying Anna Bernazian, an Armenian widow. The second marriage brings greater calm and stability into his later life. Despite his fame, Aivazovsky never fully abandons the place that shaped him. Again and again he returns to Feodosia. The small harbour town beside the Black Sea remains his true home. There he builds a large house and studio overlooking the water that first inspired him as a child. Visitors arrive from across Russia and Europe, hoping to meet the legendary painter of the sea. But Aivazovsky does more than paint. He gives money to schools, supports Armenian communities, helps improve the town's water supply, and contributes to cultural projects across Crimea. His success brings him wealth, yet he remains emotionally tied to the people and coastline of his childhood. By the end of the 19th century, Ivan Aivazovsky has spent decades painting the sea, storms, shipwrecks, moonlit harbours, sunlight breaking across dark water. While artistic styles around Europe continue changing, Aivazovsky remains loyal to the world that first inspired him as a child beside the Black Sea. Younger critics sometimes dismiss his work as old-fashioned, but audiences continue flocking to his exhibitions, because no one paints the sea like him. Even in old age, Aivazovsky works constantly. Visitors to his home in Feodosia often find him standing before a canvas late into the night, painting from memory with remarkable speed and confidence. By now he has created thousands of works, more than 6,000 paintings over the course of his life. And still, the sea continues calling him back. For Aivazovsky, water is never simply scenery. It is emotion, mystery, power. At times his oceans appear peaceful and glowing beneath silver moonlight. At others they become violent and terrifying, swallowing ships beneath enormous waves. Yet even his darkest paintings usually contain some trace of light beyond the storm. Hope survives in his work. That may be one reason people connect with his paintings so deeply. As the years pass, Feodosia changes around him. The quiet harbour town of his childhood grows busier and more modern, but Aivazovsky remains deeply attached to the place where his imagination first awakens. He continues supporting local schools, museums, and cultural projects, becoming not only a famous artist, but one of the most respected figures in Crimea itself. Then, in 1900, the long journey finally reaches its end. Ivan Aivazovsky dies at the age of 82 in the same town where his story begins, Feodosia, beside the Black Sea. According to local accounts, he is still working shortly before his death. Even at the very end, he is painting water. He is buried in Crimea beneath a simple Armenian inscription, honouring his life and talent. The sea he spends his entire career capturing continues moving beyond the shoreline nearby, unchanged and eternal. After his death, opinions about his work begin shifting. Some art critics in the 20th century focus on newer artistic movements and see Aivazovsky as belonging to an earlier age. But ordinary viewers never truly lose their connection to his paintings, because standing before an Aivazovsky canvas still feels strangely alive. The waves seem to move, the clouds seem to gather, the moonlight seems to shimmer across the water. His paintings do not trap the sea inside a frame, they release it. In time, admiration for Aivazovsky grows once again. Museums across Russia, Armenia and Europe continue displaying his work to fascinated crowds. Art historians begin recognizing what audiences always understand instinctively, that Aivazovsky achieved something almost impossible. Today, more than a century after his death, the Ninth Wave remains one of the most famous marine paintings ever created. His moonlit oceans and violent storms continue inspiring artists around the world. Yet perhaps the most remarkable part of Aivazovsky's story is how little he ever truly leaves behind the boy he once is. The child standing silently beside the harbour at Feodosia never disappears. He simply grows older. The sea remains his lifelong companion. Beautiful one moment, terrifying the next, always shifting, always alive. And maybe that is why his paintings still speak to people now. Because when Ivan Aivazovsky looks at the ocean, he does not merely see water. He sees humanity itself, fragile beneath the storm, searching for light beyond the horizon.